Coming up today on Zestology, what happens when you give up a habit that you really quite enjoy doing, but you know is not serving you? And what are the positive implications of doing such a thing? That is exactly what James Swanwick went through, and it's his second time on Zestology.
Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation.
Hello again. Yes, it's very windy here in Portugal today, so I'm huddled by a sort of a bush, which I'm using as a windbreak to try and record this podcast while a storm comes in off the Atlantic. We're very close to the west coast, the West Atlantic coast of Portugal, and it's not a hurricane, it's not a storm, it's a depression Aline apparently coming in today. So not a great time to record a podcast outdoors, but there you go. This is where I found myself recording this intro to the podcast huddled behind a bush, and I'm very pleased to say that this podcast was recorded a while ago when I was in London, and so was James Swanwick. And we there's a little bit of chat. It was recorded in the summer, and there's a little bit of chat about the forthcoming Ashes series, which is now over, and James, being Australian, is a little bit happier about the result than me. So last time we spoke to James, it was episode 107, I think, of Zestology, so about 6 years ago. And James was a sleep expert, and he still is, and he still runs his very successful sleep company. But since then, he's been on a bit of a journey, and he's given up alcohol as well. And he's sort of inspiring people in this whole new direction as well, because he's been talking about his experience. He loved the booze, but now he's loving different things in his life. So here he is, James Swanwick on Zestology. James, great to see you and talk to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Tony. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's great. Before we've started, we've already arranged to meet at the Ashes, which is happening just a couple of days after we recorded this. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Very exciting. I know. It's like,
yeah,
let's meet up in person and watch Australia beat the England.
I know, that's the disappointing bit. The fact that you've already retained the Ashes, but this isn't a cricket podcast. Otherwise, I could talk about that for hours. But no, that is excellent news, and I look forward to seeing you. And the last time you came on this podcast was 2016, and it's been ages, and you've been through a few iterations since then.
I have, yeah. I've really doubled down on helping folks to stop drinking alcohol and also to sleep better. That seems to be what I'm most known for these days, and where I seem to be able to create the most impact.
Yeah. Am I right in saying you started out as a newsreader?
I started out as a print journalist back in Australia, in my native country. And then I moved over to London in 1999. I got a job at skysports.com, which again was just the written word. And then when I moved over to the US in 2010, I somehow miraculously got a job hosting Sports Center on ESPN, which is kind of like the most iconic US sports TV news show out there. And I credit, doing well in that audition and ultimately getting the job to the clarity and the focus that I had from being alcohol free. I'd only just newly stopped drinking. I was about 45 days not drinking when I auditioned, and I got the job. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I knew there was something in common. I was a presenter at Sky Sports for 15 years until 2 years ago.
Yeah, you were there doing stuff on Sky Sports Radio, I think, right?
I was in radio originally, and then from 2006, I was on TV presenting Sky Sports News, and then all sorts of very niche sports. If you were watching 10-pin bowling on TV, that was probably me. And then the last couple of years, I've been doing this more, which has been great. And one of the quite liberating things for me is it's great to have a side hustle, but if you can't give it 5 days a week of your attention, you can't really realize your full potential. So that's been quite exciting, focusing more on all this stuff over the last couple of years, and less
Yeah.
on 10-pin bowling. So the alcohol free stuff is so fascinating because I feel like it's just an area that is hugely growing. Is that your experience in terms of the amount of interest in what you're doing?
Yeah, there's definitely a cultural shift that we're in the midst of. Millennials have never drunk less. There's an explosion of alcohol-free alternatives on the market. I've noticed an increase in the number of people seeking us out for our stop drinking services. The country of Ireland is going to be putting cancer warnings on alcohol labels from 2025 onwards. Canada reduced its recommended weekly number of drinks to its citizens from 10 drinks per week down to 2 per week. Alcohol's reputation is crumbling.
Yeah.
And I suspect, my hypothesis is this, or my prediction, I should say, my prediction is that in 3 decades, 25 to 30 years, we'll look back on alcohol with the same level of disdain we currently do cigarettes. Now, it might happen sooner or may take longer than that, but I'm predicting 3 decades.
Wow. Yeah. And do you know what? I think most people listening to this podcast, when they actually think about it, will probably sort of tune into it and think, yeah, you're probably right. The one difference, I don't know if this is not coming from any sort of scientific perspective, but I guess low-level smoking, say 5 a day, and low-level drinking, say 5 units a week, surely smoking is going to do you even more harm than drinking. But I still get what you're saying.
Well, you would think that. However, if you just had 2 more drinks than that 5 per week that you referenced, and you got to 7, right? So that's just 1 standard drink per night, per day, okay? There was a study that came out of your native country in 2022 out of the UK. It looked at 35,000 middle-aged and older adults. And what they looked at was, what are the effects of 1 seemingly innocent drink per night, 7 standard drinks a week? And what this study revealed was that was enough to cause gray and white matter in the brain to degenerate. In other words, brain degeneration of some sort. Now, does it vary from human to human? Yes, genetics plays a part. How long you've been drinking plays a part. Up until that point, how old you are plays a part. But just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
1 seemingly innocent beer or wine or scotch or gin per night, or none Monday through Friday, and then 3 on Saturday and 4 on Sunday. That's enough to cause gray and white matter degeneration in the brain. I mean, that alone should just be the biggest wake-up call for all of us, because it's crazy. I mean, and cultural conditioning has made this so normal and so okay. And everyone's smiling when they're talking about having some drinks, and you go to a restaurant, it's like, hey, can I get you a drink? The smiling assassins come to your table, the waiter and the waitress, and they're smiling. Like, can I get you started with some drinks? Yeah. Like if you go to a cricket match in the UK, you go there with your friends, of course you're going to have a few beers in the outfield with your friends, and everyone's smiling and having a good time. Now, that's fine. Have a good time. But just know that there are physical and mental consequences that come from that.
Yeah. It's funny, actually. I saw a great Instagram post the other day, which made me think a lot. You don't always say that about Instagram posts. And it essentially said, why is it alcohol is the only drug that people question you when you don't have it? And, I went to a wine bar, a natural wine bar in Portugal recently with my friend. And he ordered a glass of wine, and I sort of ordered a sparkling water. And she sort of looked at me like, as if to say, come on. And that actually, it happens a lot. Those attitudes, people do question you, but they don't question you if you decide that you don't want to drink coffee, or you don't want to go out and take MDMA on a night out. They don't say, Why not, mate?
Yeah. And the funny thing is they're giving you a look of, oh, come on, live a little.
Yeah.
But the reality is, logically, the truth is that what they're actually saying is, come on, die a little. Honestly, that's what it is, because, there's no disputing now. I mean, we've got 3 decades now of medical science, of new up-to-date research that demonstrates that any amount of alcohol will compromise your health and lead you to maybe not necessarily an earlier death, although it certainly can in many cases, but maybe just a compromised standard of life before death. And, people are going to make their own choices. It's a free world. You can make your own choice, and that's okay. You can go and enjoy your drinks, but just know there are consequences. And the thing is, there doesn't have to be, because I haven't drunk alcohol since 2010, and I have so much fun. I mean, no one would ever accuse me of being dull.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to we're talking about the cricket here, like going to a cricket match, and, you can be at a cricket match for 7-8 hours a day and sitting in the sun, and you can be enjoying some beers while watching the game. But I mean, my father and I went to the 3rd cricket test in Leeds.
Oh, great.
And none of us touched a drop of alcohol, and we had a marvelous time. It was so funny, laughing at all the people having fun, and not laughing at them, but laughing with them. We were in the jovial spirit, and people were dressed up, and were singing songs, and it was so much fun. And I just drank soda water, and had a marvelous time.
Interrupting this podcast for one moment to remind you that today's podcast partners are Viva Rays. Check out Viva Rays at vivarays.com and meet their powerful Clip and Go. It is a world-first 3-in-1 artificial light protection, and I've got a pair of these here at home in Portugal, because at the moment it's beautiful, sunny Portuguese skies outside, as you might expect. But when the sun goes down, I don't want all the artificial light that does still come in, even here in Portugal, even in a much quieter place than where I used to live in London. I don't want that affecting my circadian rhythm. I want to reclaim nature's dark light cycles in one pair of glasses. So you get the Viva Rays on, you get the afternoon glasses on. I sort of wear them from about 3 or 4 o'clock, and I'll be working on my laptop with them this afternoon. Then, with the Clip and Go technology, you progress to a sort of more amber evening phase, and then before you go to bed, it's red, blocking out everything. And they look good as well. If you're interested, you can head to the blog on my website, tonywrighton.com, and see me modelling the glasses. That might not be on your agenda for today, but if you want to, go to the blog, scroll down to the bottom of the site, and then click on blog, and you will see me modelling the daytime glasses. So those are the ones I'll be wearing in the afternoon, and I think I look rather stylish. And then you can use the Clip and Go technology to progress to the different lenses as we go. Enjoy the podcast that I did with Rudy Nassif, and head to vivarays.com. So vivarays.com. Now back to the show.
It's a cultural adjustment, isn't it? And as I was just telling you before we started, I'm going with my mates to the cricket this week, and they all drink quite a lot. And I have the occasional drink, but I don't drink very much. And it's taken me quite a long time to come to terms with the fact that we all used to drink the same amount, and then we'd go out for dinner afterwards, and then we'd go to a casino until 4 o'clock in the morning. And now about 9 o'clock in the evening, I'm like, right, see you boys, and I'm off. And part of me sort of thinks, oh, well, that's sort of the boring one. And I know that's sort of totally illogical. I know that. But it's just that cultural conditioning of, oh, I'm sort of like not playing along here.
Well, the thing is that you can get into groups of friends where alcohol is not the focus.
Yeah.
Right? And you can do lots of fun things where it's not the dependency on fun times is not alcohol.
Mm.
So for example, I mean, when I lived in Hollywood, in the Hollywood Hills in California, and I wasn't drinking. Well, I'm sorry, when I was drinking, this is pre-2010, most of my social catch-ups were at the Jones Bar on Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood. I said, let's meet up for a drink. Yeah, great. Meet up for a drink, have a couple quiet drinks, go to the bar. When I stopped drinking, when I would suggest social meetups, it was, hey, let's go and hike Runyon Canyon. And Runyon Canyon is a kind of famous, gentle hike just nestled at the base of the Hollywood Hills, a couple blocks north of Sunset Boulevard. It's very logistically easy to get to and climb. And so I would say, hey, let's meet up tomorrow morning. We'll go on a hike up Runyon Canyon. I'll meet you there at 7:30 on a weekend. Or I would say, hey, I'll meet you there at 4:00 in the afternoon. And so I would build my social life around those kind of activities.
Yeah.
Or, I was a single man at the time and dating. I would suggest the same to a woman that I was inviting out on a date. I say, would you like to go for a walk up Runyon Canyon Saturday or Sunday morning? Like, I'm not sure how early you get up, but how's 9 o'clock? How's 8:30, 9:30, let her pick. And then that would affect my Friday night or Saturday night, depending on if the date was Saturday or Sunday, because I would have the anticipation of going on the date and I wouldn't drink, and I wasn't drinking anyway, but it just, it made me focus on having a really great night's sleep. And then looking forward to a clear head, lots of energy, being present and taking a woman on a lovely date. I don't understand why single guys don't do more of it, because it's such a great seduction creator, because you're out in nature. Most guys wouldn't ever suggest a daytime date. Most guys would suggest, let's meet up for drinks and, dinner. And you get to walk, you're out in nature, like the sunshine, you're walking side by side, as opposed to like,
absolutely. Yeah.
In an adversarial kind of way or an interview kind of way when you're sitting opposite each other at a restaurant, So, yeah.
And then are you still, last time we spoke, you were selling these Swannies glasses. Is that are they still going?
They are. Yeah, they are. I'm wearing my daytime Swannies right now. These are the blue blockers. So yeah, I have a sleep company called Swanwick Sleep, and we mostly produce these orange lensed blue blockers that are affectionately known by our customers as Swannies. And you wear them in the last hour or so before you go to sleep. It blocks the artificial light from the bathroom light, the kitchen light, the bedroom light, the mobile phone light, the computer screen light, the TV screen light. That light, if you're not protecting your eyes, disrupts your sleep and compromises your sleep quality. But when you wear the glasses an hour before sleep and then remove them just before you roll over and go to sleep, you can track it with an Oura ring. Your sleep quality is noticeably better.
Yeah. Brilliant. And so you got quite a few different things going on.
Well, I got two things going on, really. I mean, since 2015, I created Alcohol-Free Lifestyle, or what's now become Alcohol-Free Lifestyle. And essentially that we now really help middle-aged executives, business owners, entrepreneurs to stop drinking for at least 90 days. In the hope that they get there and then they choose a mostly, if not entirely, alcohol-free lifestyle from there. And that's what happens. The University of Washington actually just completed a scientific study on our very process, because we've been claiming that we have a 90% success rate. And the University of Washington reached out and said, well, we'd like to test that. And we said, all right, go for it.
Wow.
And they've just completed their study. The results will be out 2024, but the professor who swore me to secrecy, and he isn't allowed to reveal, just said to me kind of like on the side, I said, I think you'll be happy with the results.
Oh,
so
great.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Wow. Yeah. I guess the sort of people, I know a few people in the sort of alcohol-free space. And firstly, I know that their businesses are growing very quickly, because there's a lot of people coming to them who are struggling to give up for one reason or another. But I guess what was interesting about what we spoke about alcohol already in this podcast is that actually the sort of people that gravitate towards giving up, the sort of people who've got a problem with alcohol, whereas actually what you're saying is that we could all do with it, but the people who tend to want to give up, who are motivated to give up, are the ones who actually have some sort of issue with alcohol, addiction of some sort.
Yeah, well, I think people are very much too quick to label themselves as an alcoholic or that they're addicted. In my experience of coaching people since 2015, most people are not physically addicted to alcohol. They've just got a mental habitual addiction to alcohol. And with a few simple rewiring of the mind processes and techniques, we can reposition alcohol in their life. And all of a sudden they go for, oh, I'm an addict or I'm an alcoholic, to actually, no, I'm not. Now I'm choosing to be alcohol free. But unfortunately for years, the only real way that people have identified that they can get support is through AA. And AA has a 7% success rate if you judge it by people stopping drinking for a year and solving their long-term drinking challenges. 7%. That means it has a 93% failure rate.
Wow.
The other thing that people try, which doesn't work, is willpower and motivation. People white knuckle it. They say, oh, right, January 1st, I'm not going to drink this year. Will it last 2 weeks? Or they do dry July or sober October or dry January. And then they feel like they're in a prison, like they're depriving themselves. And so on day 31, they want to break free of the prison, and they go and celebrate with a drink and then return to the same level of drinking that they had beforehand. And so the beautiful thing now today is that there are so many different simple, effective techniques to stop drinking. And all it involves is just a belief that you can have the most fun without alcohol, that you can be social without alcohol, that you can do a business deal without alcohol, that you can relieve your stress and anxiety at the end of the night without alcohol. And that's what we show our clients, because a lot of our clients are financially successful. They've made hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Many cases have got children, but their marriage is strained. They're not present with their kids. They're overweight. They're irritable and they're stressed. And we show them how to have fun, alcohol-free, how to relieve stress without alcohol. And suddenly within 90 days, they turn it all around. And by the time they get to 90 days, they're like, I am going to keep doing this thing. This feels great. I've lost weight. I've got into a pair of jeans that I haven't been able to get in 10 years. I've got energy. I'm sleeping better. My relationship with my wife or my husband is better. I'm more present with my kids. I'm knocking items off my bucket list that I've been procrastinating on for 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah. And then, it just becomes this beautiful, momentous thing where they just go, why am I going to go back to this attractively packaged poison? This is way better.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had a look at the picture of you presenting on ESPN Sports Center on your website. You look remarkably similar to the clean-shaven Tony in about 2007 on Sky Sports News. All dolled up in your suit there.
Yeah. You were there. You were hosting Sky Sports News 2007, were you?
I started 2006, and I left a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Amazing. I got there in 1999 when Kirsty Gallagher was like...
Oh, yeah. I presented with Kirsty. Yeah. So she came back while I was there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She was the most desired woman, I think, on British television around that time, 1999, 2000, because she obviously is aesthetically very beautiful. And then when I got there in 99, obviously I was new to the UK and I didn't really know what was what. I had no idea at just how popular she was. And I kind of had she had this halo effect where I would talk to her and I was almost like tongue tied. I was so nervous around because she'd been in Maxim magazine, doing a modeling shoot, because she was hosting a TV show and I was just doing skysports.com, and because she was in the tabloids and things like that. I was starstruck.
Yeah. Oh no, she's lovely. She's left Sky as well now, but has a flourishing media career. But it's just interesting, I found it very liberating stepping outside a sort of conventional media environment where, because you've sort of got corporate overlords, you're responsible to the brand, so you can only say and act in a certain way, and you can't necessarily be your authentic self. I don't know if you found that as well, but it's been very liberating for me, actually finally leaving and being able to do this full time, work on the books and the podcast and everything else, and just be myself. It's been brilliant, actually.
Oh, good on you. Yeah. Well done for that. Yeah. It's I had a similar feeling, which actually led to me resigning from ESPN in 2012. Good on you for making that shift, by the way. It's incredible. And I would imagine that you your creative juices, so to speak, have probably been awoken or are flourishing now. Like you get to create whatever it is that you want to create without the hindrance of British corporation.
Yeah.
I remember at ESPN, I absolutely loved that job because I'd never been on TV. I got to host sports. I mean, I loved it. However, their studios were based in a place called Bristol, Connecticut, which is a couple of hours outside of New York City. And it was social suicide, really, for a single man like me at the time, because most people there who worked at ESPN, lived around Bristol, Connecticut, and I could see there were either inter-office romantic relationships going on, or people were married, and there was no real flourishing kind of single scene or anything other than just kind of living in the suburbs. And I thought to myself, I'm going to die here. Like I will die of boredom or it's just. And so I made a choice to quit. And candidly, I struggled for 18 months after I did, because I tried to be an entrepreneur and I didn't go particularly well. But then I finally hired a mentor and learned everything I could about, online businesses. And that's when it started to pick up for me. And then, fast forward to 2015, that's when I created the sleep company and the alcohol-free company. And fast forward 8 years from that, both of them are doing considerably well.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. It's not going to be overnight, is it? That's the thing. So yeah, well done. Yeah. Remarkably similar. Skies in the burbs as well.
Yeah, Isleworth, right?
Yeah, Isleworth. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I drove out from central London when I was working there, but yeah.
Did you?
A lot of into-work romance, let's put it that way.
Oh, that was happening back when I was there in 99, 99, 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, questions that I ask everyone. I asked you this 6 or 7 years ago. What is one book that you would recommend, or one book that has grabbed you recently, or one book that you think people would like? And what is one tip for living with more energy and vitality?
The book recommendation is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. And it's a book about leading with value. So in any new social acquaintance you make, try to be thinking, how can I support this person first, and always lead with value. And then rule of reciprocity, even if you're not expecting it, means that person is going to feel a connection to you and want to in turn support you. It's a big shift from how I was at a time in my life where I was always going into relationships thinking, what can I get out of this conversation? So that was a really big life-changing book for me, Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. And then the last question was something to do with a health and wellness tip.
Yeah, what is one tip for living with more energy and vitality? That's the specific focus of this podcast. Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously it's a bit of a boring answer in that I would just say focus on your sleep. Like sleep is so important. But just specifically to break that down, I would say try to get as much natural sunlight as you can first thing in the morning, because our skin has receptors in it. And when the sunlight hits the skin, it tells our internal body clock, which is known as our circadian rhythm, it's wake up time, it's daytime. Now that triggers the body releasing daytime hormones. And then also what it does is it lets the body know that 16 hours later to turn on the melatonin faucet or the melatonin tap. So as soon as you wake up, try to get as much natural sunlight as possible, and then in the evening, try to block as much artificial light as possible, because artificial light at night can really compromise your sleep. And I would also just invite anyone, I'm wearing an Aura ring here. I like to track my sleep. Oh, there you go. You've got yours, Tony. Yeah. I like to track the steps that I do. I try to get 10,000 steps a day. And I think waking up, getting sunlight, trying to get 10,000 steps a day, and then blocking blue light with a pair of quality blue blockers at night, that will really set you up to have a great night's sleep, which in turn helps you wake up with clarity and focus and energy and feeling positive.
Yeah. Good man. Good man. Well, look, it's great to talk to you. I might see you at the cricket in a couple of days' time.
Tony, great to talk to you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And where can people find out more about everything that you talked about, the alcohol-free challenge, the glasses?
alcoholfreelifestyle.com. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at James Swanwick. Got a YouTube channel called Alcohol Free Lifestyle, a podcast called Alcohol Free Lifestyle, And the Swannies glasses can be found at either swanwicksleep.com or on Amazon.
Good stuff. All right. Well, look, really lovely to talk to you. And yes, as I say, I might see you in person soon, but thank you for coming on Zestology.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me, Tony.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for getting involved in Zestology. And thank you for checking out today's podcast partners, which is Viva Rays. Go to vivarays.com to find out a little bit more about their clip and go blue blocking glasses, which are absolutely fantastic. It's only about 11 in the morning here at the moment, so I don't need them yet, but mid-afternoon, late afternoon, I'll be digging them out. And there's 3 different modes, so you can go for the sort of afternoon mode, the early evening mode, and the late night mode when you are winding down for bed. And that's lovely for me, for reading a book just before bed, because I do use a Kindle in bed rather than a book, so there is a bit of bright there. And even though it's got a night shift mode, the Kindle, but it's not that blocked, the blue light. So these clip and glow glasses are absolutely brilliant for that. If you go to vivarays.com, you'll find out more about it. And love to know what you think. That is it for this podcast. It's still windy here in Lagos. It's very warm. It's humid. I mean, it's like a British summer's day, but it's just windy. And I think next time I record a podcast, I'll try and make sure it's either not windy or I'm not outside. What's happened is I've come to this sort of co-working meetup in Lagos, and my podcast producer has said to me, mate, your podcast is out in a couple of days and you haven't recorded an introduction. So I had to come outside, hide around the side of a bush and record this. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you can hear me and it's not too windy. And I will see you next week. In the meantime, please do check out all my latest posts from here in Portugal, and that you can find them at instagram.com/Tony Wrighton, and see you soon.